You probably noticed that I work in my living room. But there are many other things that I like to do in this space, like relaxing. This means that I have to clean up my sewing mess every single day, because your girl cannot deal with clutter. I just can't. So I came up with a plan. I'm going to turn this corner into a sewing studio. Above everything else, I want it to be functional, but I also want it to be pretty, something that still ties with the rest of the space. But there's a catch. I'm not going to spend any money on this makeover, or at least I'm going to try not to spend any money. That's the goal. I'm going to be attempting to recondition furniture that I already own and that I found in the streets and customize it to hold all of my sewing gear. So if you like decluttering, organizing, and building custom sewing-friendly furniture, well, you might want to stick around. Let me present to you the finds, a small collection of furniture I have encountered in my neighborhood. This piece of furniture is not vintage and it's not old. However, this blends seamlessly in this room, mainly because it's the exact same shade as all of my doors. And in a room that's full of stuff, let's be honest, a little bit of camouflaging is not going to do me any harm. And I forgot to say, this is going to be the new resting place for the heavy machinery. And by that I mean my machines. Because right now they're stored in a very inconvenient place. They're in my closet. And other than the fact that they're clearly not where they should be, I would like to note that it's also very annoying to have to go back and forth to fetch them. It originally came without the upper panel, but my boyfriend kindly took care of that, and now I have to paint it. Luckily for me, I have the exact same shade. I think I want to place it right here, and I'll explain. I feel like it protrudes a bit too much, and so if I were to place it here, it would remove so much working space. And I really want my working space. I also believe that by placing it here, it's just going to blend in. It's just going to disappear. And it's not going to be that noticeable. Feel free to disagree. This is really cool. I'm really excited. All right. I was gonna do primer, but I think I'm gonna skip that step. This is all about learning lessons, okay? So yeah, I should have used primer because the plywood just absorbed the paint. And I probably could have saved a bunch of paint. I did a first coat, but it's nowhere near enough. Second thing I shouldn't have done is wear black, because I just cleaned it, but you can see that I stained this a little bit. Yeah. It's okay. Let's just keep going. All right, I did a second coat. It probably needs a third, but I'm gonna gauge that once it's dry. Third coat is in the bag. I'm gonna let that dry and then I'm gonna reassemble the doors. However, I don't think I'm gonna hang this tonight because I do want to let it dry completely overnight. I'll see you tomorrow then. Paint is completely dry. We just hanged it. I'm going to install the doors now. This is very weird because I usually don't have a hard time choosing. I know what I like and I know what I don't like, but I'm having a hard time right now. This is usually what I would go for. Big, bold, old-timey. You know what I mean? But this one is very discreet and it's something that I think I like. However, this one is easier to handle because it's bigger, so it's easier to work with. This one is a bit too modern to my taste. And this one is a bit too bulky. It's just too big, too there. You know what I mean? I think I'm gonna let you choose. Giving my machines a defined space also meant that I didn't have to hide them in my closet anymore, and I consequently could finally remove the huge shelf that was taking so much space. There is so much space now. As to this red box, I've had this for a long while. I heavily pondered if it was worth restoring, because on the surface, this is the perfect little cabinet to store sewing related stuff. But I ultimately decided against it. Why? Because it's missing half of the recipients, and two, it's just too far gone. It's completely rusted. What I am going to do is I'm going to take advantage of all the recipients for storage. Those are completely stuck. And I found a camera. I'm gonna let these soak for a little bit and then I'm gonna give them a really good scrub. I gave these a really good scrub and now they're completely dry. Now I have noticed that some of them are not in the best condition, so I'm gonna have to sort them out. But for now, I'm gonna leave them to the side because I have more important things to tend to, but don't worry, they're gonna make a comeback. This one is the most exciting one for me. This cabinet was also found in the neighborhood. It's a little bit damaged. You can see a bunch of scraps in here, but I really don't mind damage. I feel like it adds a little bit of character, you know? This was mounted in the wall about a month ago, but I still have not done anything to it. But today is the day. And the plan is the following. I'm gonna take this piece of wood and I'm gonna screw it in the back panel. And then I'm gonna make tiny holes every couple centimeters and then introduce this other piece of wood. The ultimate goal being to hold my bobbins. And I'm gonna do the same, but vertically with these. I also have thicker ones, because I want to be able to hold just bigger tools. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. And I say we, because today I'm gonna have a helper. This part took a lot of measuring, but once we figured the numbers out, it was mostly an easy ride. Update. So the first side is done and it turned out really, really well. I'm really excited about this one. Now, there is a change of plans because earlier I told you that I would put these bobbins like this. And I was thinking, if I did it like this, only a few would fit because the width of the cabinet is 4 centimeters. And also, you wouldn't see the color of the thread. However, if you tilt it, I would be able to fit many more. And I would be able to see the thread color. Now, I don't know if we have enough wood for all the bobbins, but it's fine. I forgot to mention, but we're doing this project with scraps and things that we have around. We're not buying anything new, so yeah. So we ended up finishing the project off camera because it was very, very late. And also it was the same process, but these were upwards and these are front. I'm going to briefly explain to you what I plan to put where, but the second part of the video is going to be the whole decluttering and reorganizing. So I don't want to spoil that, but I still wanted to show you how it worked. So basically long tools would go here. This here, for example. I still don't know exactly what I'm going to keep in here because I want to make sure that the things that I have here are the things that I'm going to use more often. You know? Because this could go here, cooler could go here, thread. Obviously here, this is my favorite part. And then these bobbins would go here. This is also one of my favorite things about this. But yeah. Today we're working on our next project. This shelf was thrown by a bar, and I'm very certain that they kept it in the kitchen because it's very greasy, it's disgustingly filthy. In all honesty, I was a bit hesitant to bring this shelf home because of the filth, but I measured it, and I realized that it would perfectly fit in one of the most difficult corners of this house, that one over there. And also, it's a shelf, and I'm never gonna say no to storage. I began the cleaning process before starting to film because I wasn't sure that I was gonna keep this shelf. And my first method, which was just using degreaser and scrub the thing, did not work. So we're gonna try a second method, which is scraping with a blade. Oh, and I also want to install wheels. Functional, remember? All right, let's get started. ended up handing the job to my boyfriend because of the finger. And I'm really happy that I did, because I would have never achieved this. Look at this. And the other ones on the table. Look at the difference in shades. It's crazy. And also, we don't think it's grease. We think it's beer. You know how when beer spills and over time it's just like super sticky and almost greasy. I don't know if that qualifies as greasy or sticky. Well, that's how it feels. So yeah, it's not grease. So maybe that's why the degreaser did not work. Actually, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? All right, let's keep going. We're pretty close. We're finally done scraping the wood, but oh my, the mess we have made. The whole house is full of wood shavings. The whole house. So the first thing that I'm going to do is clean the house, and then I'm going to decide whether I want to stain the wood. I'll show you. This is the current shade. However, the whole house is full of very dark woods. So I'm wondering if I should just bring a little bit of contrast and not do anything to the wood. I think that makes a bit more sense this time. If I stained it, there's a possibility that the stain would camouflage all of the signs of hues, because we didn't do the best job. I mean, the only thing that I wanted to do was remove the dirt, and the dirt was removed, so I'm happy with that. But it's not the most beautiful grain, and it's not the most beautiful wood. But this is going to be a cart. This is not going to be noticeable. Anyways, I'm going to clean the house, and then we're going to install the wheels. I'm excited about that. I just came back from the store because I ended up having to purchase a couple of things that I thought I had, but I didn't have. I'll show you. Hangers. These were $4 each. Wheels. And these were 1.5 each. And I took 4. So I spent in total $12 in everything. I think it's pretty decent. I'm going to install the wheels now. Now that all the pieces have been built and customized, it's time for a reset. Resets are so important. Every few months, it's worth pulling everything out, checking what you have, scaling back if necessary, or finding a new and better spot for things. Today, I'm finally tackling my sewing cabinet, or commode, whatever you would call this thing over here. The goal is to clear the space, sort things out, and decide resting places. I even gave this a name. It's called the 3-step method. Empty and sort, regroup, decide and test. And now it's time for step number 1. Too far. I think I'm going to unfold the table to have a bit more space. that I own, sewing-wise, is here on this table, except my machines. My machines are stored in the new cabinet already. I'm afraid I'm going to be facing hoarding allegations, and I wouldn't know where to start to defend myself. I don't know if this is a reasonable amount of stuff to have collected in these almost 3 years that I have been sewing. The thing with me is I see potential in everything. So most of my zippers, most of these bag thingies are basically recovered from suitcases, old suitcases, bags, old garments. A lot of these little things are not expensive, but they're not the cheapest, or they're not stuff that's really easy to find. Except on the internet, you can find everything on the internet. I do like to go places to shop. I do like to shop locally. I think I'm a resourceful person. I like to take advantage of things that might go to waste. I think that's the underlying issue here. But I think that I'm going to be changing my ways looking forward, because I don't know if I'm comfortable having so many things. In fact, this is not comfortable for me to look at everything and know that if I have to move away for any reason, to think, oh, how am I going to carry this? It's a thought that's really anxiety inducing. Yeah, I think we're going to be scaling back today. But first, let's do step number 2. Let's regroup. I think I did a pretty decent job regrouping. I also wanted to note that if you don't want complete chaos, maybe start regrouping when emptying things out. I think that's a good idea. Anyways, time for step number 3, which is deciding and testing. And the reason that I called this deciding and testing is we're deciding a new resting place for the specific tool. And secondly, we're going to be testing if we like that new placement. The testing can take a week, it can take a month, it can take a year. What I really want to know with this testing phase is this the most appropriate place for this tool? In other words, is this the best suited place? Is this where this makes more sense? And is this where it's easier to reach? Do I use this often? Do I not use this often? Does it warrant being in the commode? Do I want it out and about? Yeah. So yeah, these are all things that I'm going to be thinking about now, which is not the most exciting, but we're going to start with the most exciting. I'm going to be placing my main tools in there. I went for a color scheme of sorts. Unfortunately for me, not all of my threads fit in here, but that's okay. Because the thing is, I did want to have the most used things in here, but I have to note that the threads that I end up almost always using are black and white, I think probably like most people. And once you really start picking up sewing, you stop using these and you start using these. So these are not that pretty. And also I just have them in black and white. So I think I'm going to keep these somewhere different. All right, let's keep going. All right, it worked. I'm a bit more excited about the reset. A tiny, teeny bit, but a bit nonetheless. Let's keep going. First thing I'm going to say is that the wheels were an exceptional idea. I think this is going to make working on projects much easier. And the second thing I'm going to say is this is finally making a comeback. This is so overwhelming. I have so much stuff. I think I'm going to be throwing a lot of the stuff that I have because I feel like I didn't even know that I had it. So what's the point in having it if you don't know that you have it? There's no point in holding on to things that you don't know that you have. Yeah. All right. Almost everything that you see on the table and on the floor, I'm going to be throwing out because it's just stuff that doesn't make any sense. Old zippers that don't have the actual zipper, trim that's just too short to be used. Right there is just one of my old suitcase components that I wanted to keep in case, but I'm realizing that there's just no use for that. A bunch of old buttons that are just too worn out. And yeah, on the table you can see just more stuff, mainly boxes. Luckily for me, I was able to store everything in the commode. So goodbye boxes, I hated these. Anyways, I'm gonna show you the commode now. What are my thoughts? Last week was so intense that I didn't know if I was going to be able to work on anything this week. But fortunately, I was. Not only that, but this has been one of my favorite videos to make so far. All of the projects have just turned out amazing. I can't wait to test just everything out, but I can already tell that this is going to make a massive difference. If we leave the furniture aside, I did want to preface something. If you're feeling overwhelmed by your space, I highly encourage you to do a reset. Yes, it does mean dropping everything you planned for the day to the side, but it is so rewarding to return to a clean, organized setup. At first, I felt completely overwhelmed by the reset, but now that I get a tidier, more organized space, I'm so grateful for it. If you have any organizing tips, do drop them in the comments. I want to know. Please give me your best. I'm in dire need of the best. Anyways, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I know this wasn't my usual content, but I hope you will appreciate it nonetheless. I know I did. If you would like to support, you can like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. It does make a difference. I post every week, usually on Thursdays. See ya.